Welcome to Friday. Last Friday of August edition. Last Friday of summer? No. It's still summer. till what? September, late September. Right? We still got some summer, but I don't know. Labor Day is the end of summer, friends. Let's be honest. Kids go back to school. It gets colder and darker sooner. I'm not sad about that. I like fall. I've enjoyed summer. It's been a good summer. But it's time for fall. In honor of it being a very transitional weekend, long holiday weekend, I didn't have grand plans for today's show. But I've been building stuff because my mind goes wherever it wants to, it seems like sometimes. So last time we met, we were talking about countries and states. Bring some more of that back. I had some thinky thoughts on that. I'm going to switch that up a little bit. TLDR, I don't think an API is necessary to make a call out. It's cool. It's a cool idea. It's fun. It's fun for the show. Lets us build a bunch of stuff. But country and state data doesn't change very often, really. So do we need an API? Maybe not. And there's some really great data sources out there that TLDR, I just downloaded some the info, threw it into custom metadata, and we're rocking and rolling. It actually performs a little bit better too. So we'll take a look at that. Also, throwing my stuff on the floor. Got wrapped around this idea of wouldn't it be cool to have a component that could just handle displaying junction objects for you, like a nice little UI. Because my usual use cases are, I want to select from a finite list of options to create a junction between two things, or maybe I want to just be able to create them, one after another. It's kind of a drag when you do a junction object in Salesforce out of the box. Like, oftentimes you don't know what you're looking for on either side. So, and it feels like something that could maybe be, configurable and repeatable. So I have some of that going. We could take a look at some of that. But it's going to just be a little potpourri today. But we'll do some country state pick list stuff. We'll do some junctioner stuff. Maybe we'll do a little housekeeping on anything else that I can come up with. And I'll send you all off on your wonderful Labor Day holiday weekend, which I hope will be wonderful for all of you. So let's get some screens on. I just found the 12-hour synthwave royalty-free channel, so we'll be listening to that from now on. Okay, what do we got? Our last episode, we were doing this. Oh, we broke it too, by the way. Uh-oh. So that's a great start. We're off to a solid start here. Not working. Where did we go wrong? Let's go see. Well, rather than tell you where we went wrong, let me tell you where I'm thinking about this. Here's what we did before. Again, clever, maybe not necessary. So we have some moving parts here. I'm calling this like Project Atlas. Working title. We'll workshop it. There are, let's see. Let's look at external services. All right. Created this external service to the Countries Now API. Is the one that that I started with. And what's going on? Oh, okay. So Countries Now API is an API that lets you go and get country, province, other information. So we created two endpoints. We were using their get countries and get states, which it turns out I discovered this week, not due to a different project, that doesn't return all the countries. So Countries Now is a little bit out of date. Probably not the one we should be using. Let me see if I can find the one that we should be using. Hold for a second while the man behind the curtain does his thing here. Let's see, what was that called? Here we go. Okay, so no, that's not the name of it. Where'd you go? Here we go. Country, state, cities database. I think this is the one. Yes, this is the one. Okay. Where is ours? Go. Here, this is the one. Let's get back on screen here. Oh. There it is. Okay. This is the one. So people seem to dig this one. So the country, state, cities database by DR5HN. This guy, Darshan Gada. Pretty seems pretty exhaustive. So we've got, if I can find it, CSV. He's got CSV files in here of the countries. I don't like the way that looks. Let's go back. So these are all the countries. Last updated last month. Okay, so not too long ago. So it seems pretty up to date. And then also in addition to the countries, we've got states. This one's pretty long. But you can see it's here's the country Afghanistan. Here's all the regions /states /provinces for Afghanistan. This is exactly the data that we need for our thing. So what I would do, haven't done in here yet, did in another org. I'm gonna do this off to the side a second. Let's see. Where'd you go? Okay. All right. So let's do this with custom metadata instead. What we have going on right now, we've got our API. It's making the callouts, but it doesn't give us all the data back that we need. We've got some flows that are making those callouts, which we don't need now if we just build this as custom metadata. So we'll do some undoing here in a bit, but so the custom metadata that I created over here is just called country. I'll bring this over. Let's take this. All right, so there's our metadata type. It just has 3 fields. Well, it's got the name, obviously, but and then 3 other fields. The ISO code, ISO 2, which is used a lot. The two-letter code for countries. We also got ISO 3, which instead of US it's USA, or instead of CA it's CAN for Canada. So we got both of those, and then my first thought was, okay, we could create custom metadata for the countries. Then we could create custom metadata for the states. That's a lot of metadata, and and I wouldn't mind doing it, except it's just like kind of like why, right? We got 220 countries ish, I think. 251. No, 250. And states is like 5, almost, more than 5,000. I think 5,000 is a lot of custom metadata to create, so I don't think we're going to create one record for each of these. It could be good, and I just realized I'm pointing and clicking at things on the screen. There we go. Okay. So we got 5,000 states. We've got 220, 250 countries. Let's do this as metadata instead. So we'll create a country metadata object, ISO 2, ISO 3. Obviously, we have the name of the country. And I'm going to store the state data as JSON on the metadata. Why? Because I think the only time we're going to use this data right now is through the UI that we're going to build. If we found that we needed this access to this metadata in a different way, I guess more natively, if you will, and I might want to pull the states out as their own metadata, but for right now, we're not going to generate 5,000 metadata records, one for each. It just feels like more than we need. All right, so let's deploy this. Okay, and I just so happen, Julia Child style, I just so happen to have all the metadata for these records in another org. Just going to retrieve them one last time and make sure I do have all of them. So 250 countries. We need a custom metadata folder. All right, bring these over. See what these look like. Okay. There's all of them. If we look at one of these, let's look at Italy. So ISO 2, ISO 3, label, name of the country. And then here's the states JSON. Let's word wrap this. There we go. So it's encoded JSON as the value here. After poking around at some other metadata, that seems to be the way it has to look. So structured it that way. So yeah, that wrote a script, amalgamated the data between those two CSV files, and kicked this out. So many thanks to, again, the keeper of this repository. And like I said, it's interesting because it's being updated. Right? So there's changes here in the last month. So somebody's keeping an eye on this, and they have an API. Again, it's super useful if if we need maybe more. There's actually also more data here than just the countries and states that we need. So I think there's like population and currency and stuff like that. And the API is out here. Let's see. Let's look at Playground. All right, so you see there's a lot more here, right? We get the phone code, the capital, the currency. These are also available in the spreadsheet. I just, opted not to use all that. We're just using kind of what we need. But I could definitely see, purpose in getting more of that data. I guess I can't play around with it because I do not have an auth key, so we won't do anything with that. But it's also Swagger, so I think you could download this as a, I think you could get a Swagger API and upload it into Salesforce, maybe? Is that it? Open API? Yeah. Maybe. Country. Yeah, they're all here. So you could grab this, throw it into Salesforce, and then boom, you've got the external service for that too, if you wanted to use it that way. I'm not going to do that right now. We're actually going to undo some of that with the metadata that we've got here. Let's actually deploy all this to our org. So incoming 250 metadata records. Okay, and there we go. Lots of metadata. So this kind of renders some things not needed for us anymore. We'll talk about junctioner a little later. some junctioner data there. Let's go back to country state pick lists. So we won't actually do the flow call out anymore. We don't have to do that. We just need to get the, well, actually, no, we can still do a call out. We still need to get this data. And I'm still going to try to hold fast to the use flow to do stuff pattern. You know, right now we just have, we have external services being called, but we can repurpose both of these get countries, get states to return the metadata that we're expecting, and still structure it against the classes that we have here, the state data, and the country data. So let's do that. We're going to refactor these two flows. So instead of getting countries from the external service, let's just query those out. Right? All right, we'll call it get countries too. We'll cheat a little bit. We want all of them, so let's grab all of them. Let's sort by the master label, get all the records back, and we'll save this new version. It's today, 30th, end of the month. Let's see, replacing API with custom metadata. Okay. Oh, we don't need that filter. So we're going to get everything. All right, so we're not going to do this anymore, but we are still going to transform because it will make things a whole lot easier. So from our get records 2 into our country data, map. There we go. And everything else stays the same. So we can get rid of get countries. Let's delete this. Okay, let's activate that and see what kind of trouble we get into here. I'm gonna inspect this. And let's do a refresh and see where we end up, if we get some more errors or not. All right, get the... So still using our flow call out here format. Let's make sure what we are sending is what looks correct here. Yeah, we don't have to pass anything in, so that should just run. Should just run, but we're not getting anything back. No errors here? Oh, okay, we're getting the for each because we can't for each something that's not for eachable. Where are we for eaching? Probably here, right? Yep. No, wait, we do. Okay, so we do have country. Why do we have country data now? All right, so we're building our, oops. All right, so that for each is just fine. That was a little weird. I don't know why it was empty down here. Maybe we're calling something that's reacting, the page is reacting to before we should. But, all right, I'm going to sneeze. Don't know if you heard that. All right, so where are we getting, where is our for each blowing up? State options. Yeah, that shouldn't be me getting called at all. Let's take a look at our... Right, so we need to wrap this with state data. So we're going to do a little more mojo with that to determine how the state data is displayed. Sometimes the answer is going to be it isn't displayed because a country doesn't have states, and in other cases it's going to there's different states of states, right? Loading the states, not having states to display, not having chosen a country. And not, or just, you know, what we want. The normal cases where we actually have countries to choose. I'm sorry, we have countries, we have states with a country to choose. Which actually this should be doing right now that I'm looking at this. So we might roll back what we just did to show or hide the state data, because we actually should have some state data. We just may need to default our state data property to like an empty array or something like that. Anywho, let's fire this off. All right, so we picked a country. Are we reacting to that? Are we in get states right now? And we have no... Okay, there we go. Hey, it worked. I didn't realize it was working, but it worked. I want to see how this is operating, though. That's what we're looking for. Yep, everything else is good. So get states is... We do need to swap get states because it's still... We have... the country looking at our metadata, we have the states looking at that API still, which is kind of neat that they both work, but we don't want it to work that way. So, okay, first things first, refresh this. I think our first question is, so what do we display? I feel like we should show something. We should show the state and province somehow, if even if we haven't selected a country yet. But we have to look at our state data. So what's being populated here? We're not going to have a selected state yet. Is it required? Is it disabled? Let's check for those values, because we do want it disabled while we're in this state of not having anything to show. Let's see. So is state country disabled? Where are you? All right, it's disabled if the selected country is null. That makes sense. We're just not displaying it at all right now. So I think what we need here is, I think we want state data to default to an empty array. And when we pick country data, so we get countries, where are you? When we get countries, we want to reset this because we don't have any state data yet. Okay, so now our options, we can run through this and say, hey, if a country is loading, we're going to give you one option to let you know that we're loading countries. If we haven't picked a country yet, and we don't have a state, which should... this is probably wrong, right? If we want to say select a country, we just want to see that selected country is null. So we don't really care about that. Let's start there. So I'd like to end up with the state pick list displaying, but that should actually be disabled right now. Yep, so we want to make sure that's disabled when, which I thought it would be, because selected country is, well, it's not null. It's undefined. I'm going to spend my whole life trying to learn how the 2 equals versus the 3 equals work. But I think I'm finally figuring it out after 46 years. Okay, disabled. That's good. Now, if we pick a country, I think it's so fast that we can't even see the the change take place. Let's see if we can trap it when we catch it when we're debugging. So when we do options, so let's load a country. It doesn't think a country's loading when we pick something, so maybe we're not setting that. Actually, wait, that's not gonna, let's see, is country loading? Are we even using that? I don't know if that's like a thing that we have to. Okay, it only happens when, this should really be is countries loading, I think. Where are you? Let's rename this. That's more accurate, right? It's the first time we load the countries. So we can say that here. We'll run it here, and then when we're done, we turn it off, and then we have our country data, we reset our state data. We don't really need to do that here, I don't think. We can do that when we select the country. We can do that during get states. Reset that. Then our state data comes down. And this again should be is states loading. Let's see, am I staring right at it? Do we actually not have a oops. Yeah, I don't think we're actually defining that as a property. So let's be good boys and girls and not be defining variable properties as we're doing stuff in our code. Not a great idea. Okay, so that states loading is false. Did we change the name of all those? States loading, states loading, states loading. Okay, so that is legit now. I don't know how long. It doesn't matter, we can catch it in the debugger. Let's see if we first load, what are our options? Still thinks countries is not loading. That's weird. Because we set that. Let's go here. All right, so we're getting countries. When we get countries, maybe the order of operations just isn't getting there yet because it's not actually trying to load the options. All right, so we are setting it to true. Yep. Ah, so, okay. Interesting that it didn't populate this, though. Oh, wait. This is this is the placeholder. Okay, hold on. Yeah. We need to, that's why it's not showing anything. We need to set the right value for that. So we want the placeholder to say something different. I think we make those, let's just make those properties because I think they'll be easier to manage. I don't know what that's going to say off the bat. Country pick list placeholder, I guess we should call that. Okay, country and state pick list placeholder. We can put these in the, these will probably be something that we can make configurable at some point too. Okay. Those are going to be, let's put a value in those, or it's just going to be blank. Yeah, so we're showing the state. We're always showing the state. We should do the same for the country. And then the placeholder is what we can use to inform what we're what's going on. Okay, so let's do this now. I'm gonna, let's do this. We'll set these to the default value that we want them to. In fact, I think both of them can say that, right? Because that's what we're going to do out of the gate. I'm trying to get into a habit of doing like private variables and public properties. This one, do we want to set from the outside? I don't know if we actually want to pass this in. We could pass in labels, but we would probably do that a different way. So I think we're just going to make a getter and a setter for this. And then if the value is not null, I don't want it to, for some reason, override my defaults here. So there's the country. Let's do one for the state. Okay, state, country, cool. And we're referencing those out here. So now we want to take away country data. We don't want this to conditionally display. We always want it to show. We also don't want it to break, which means we probably want to make our country data, let's make that empty. So again, I think if I was being good, I would follow this pattern for everything up here. I've really been trying to, it's exhausting to have to write this stuff out, but just to have more control over how the internal variables are being set and returned. I'm realizing it's, you know, good to be exhaustive. For now, we'll start there. Let's see. So we want to make sure that country data is not in our options. We're just not going to show any because it's going to be disabled. Yeah, actually, we probably want to is country pick list disabled also. I'm surprised we don't have that. So we'll disable that while we're loading, or if it's null, or it's empty. Okay. That should do it. All right, so we're loading countries, loading countries. I think we're disabled, looks like. Now, so now it's less about the options, it's more about the placeholder, which I think is going to be completely dependent on the country. So we might not even need to set that. We just might need to get that value all the time. Right? So now it should say select a country. Yeah. Yeah, I don't think we're setting this. we're just gonna do a get. We're gonna tell it what to display. Again, if we wanted to translate, we probably would do like labels. Well, we would do labels, and then we reference the labels inside the component. All right, so let's see. What are our conditions? They're basically the same as what we were doing over on state options here. We're not going to have to do all this anymore. I don't think. So if countries are loading, we leave it as is, loading countries. That'll make this easier, actually. Okay, else if states are loading, we'll say loading states. Okay, let's do this. So if very start, we're loading countries, so we don't care. Not that we don't care, but we're going to say, hey, we're loading countries. There's nothing else to do here. If the selected country is null, then we're going to say select a country. Okay. If we're loading states, then, so we have a country selected, the next situation we could be in is we're loading states, so we'll say loading states. Beyond that, I think we're just sending select a state, I think. And the more I think about this, I don't know if really the country pick list placeholder is going to be something that we dictate. I mean, maybe certain, again, some labels maybe we dictate, but I think we could make that just custom labels rather than something that we configure. Let's try this out first. This is why the shorthand is not the greatest. Okay, let's see. Countries loading? Nope. Country selected. Select a country is null. Yes. Okay, so it should say return. It should say select a country. Yes, it does. All right. Now when we I'm gonna undo these. Now when we select a country, it should say, I think we're going to get to is states loading, right? Countries selected, countries are not loading, states are loading, so it should say loading states. And it does. And now, are we still loading states? No. So now it should say select a state. There we go. Groovy. Okay. So the same scenario should be true for get country pick list placeholder. Same deal, right? If countries are loading, we'll say that. Otherwise, we'll say select the country. Not much else to that one. There. All right. So yeah, that just ends up being a getter instead of having to worry about all the other stuff. there was a little bit of a delay there. You saw it was loading the states, and then it said select a state. And is it disabled when we first fire up? Yes. I guess the one other thing we want to do is make sure that's disabled while it's loading. So let's recheck is state pick is disabled and see what's going on there. I think that'll do it. There we go. Yep, we like that. Cool. I don't like that. What's going on there? Yeah, let's... what is that about? Oh, we're getting states all the time. We don't want to do that. That's better. Okay. Cool. So we have the thing working. Are we doing any? I'm gonna pull flow call out as like its own little library thing at some point too. All right, groovy. So that's working. So what can we do from here? We could say things like, well, let's take a quick pass at our... So these are all going to be values that we send back, right? These are output. Well, I suppose they could be input, right? We could say, you know, I could render the... that's actually a really good question. How would this handle if it was existing values? Because let's see, everything else here is we can denote if it's required or not. These are just the labels. These are not options. This is just a value that we pass. The format of the label and the value are basically the field value, or the field, the property name that we want to display. So we're showing the name everywhere. But if I wanted to make the value be like the ISO code, I would change this to ISO 2 or ISO 3. But I think a good question is, you know, how do we handle incoming values? Because that could definitely happen. We would still want to load. We still want to get our countries. Actually, it should be fine. Well, is it going to be fine? Let's find out. So let's go to our let's edit this. Oh, we have to make the those properties available here, right? I can never remember the format of this stuff. Oh, that's cooking. All right, where are we? We are. Our target is going to be. Where are you? That'll be an app page, right? So. Yep. So we're going to make. We're already targeting app page, I think, with this component. Yes. Okay. So now we want to put some properties out there. Okay. I'll just do this for app page and I'll come back and enable it for. All right, what have we got? We've got. What can we set here? The country pick list label. I'm going to grab a whole bunch of these because I think we can just kind of do these all in one shot. Okay. We can label these, right? And then we've got state. Let's see, is it required? Question mark. Let's see, could we do these formats as pick lists? Okay, so these are going to be name, so this is where I probably want to have a setter for this so I can pass these values in, but my getter is actually going to be a two lowercase. I want to make these look nice, intelligible. All right, state label format. Those two are the same, and then these two are the same. I don't know if we really need state code or ISO 2 out here. That's a relic of whatever I was working on before, so. Okay. So we're gonna have to deal with that a little bit to make it look nicer. Not look nicer, actually be correctly processed. Oh, do we have two of these? Oops. Okay. Gonna change one thing over here. those will be our default internal values for each of those. And then we'll create the gets on each of these. Just return the value. Now the setter will make the API now. And actually, wait, our getter is gonna change too. I forgot. Yep. So like that, and then here. When we return this, we actually want to, we're gonna get something different back now, right? This is gonna be, they're actually gonna be more like this. We'll default them all to the capital value. We'll set that value, but when we return it, all right, so we're going to return that instead. That's label format. Now let's do value format. Okay. Those are both the same. This one, the state one's a little different because we have to deal with the, we have to format state code. Okay, then we have these accounted for now. So for getter for the label and format here, I'm going to just literally check for this and then just return. Or we can just return the value to lowercase, which there's only one option, but okay. That's for the label. Now for the value. There. So that lets us have whatever value we want to present in the property selection, but still manage it internally because we need the right values internally. Okay. Yeah, I think we should, let's see, selected country and selected state. Can you dictate input or out and output here? I forget if that's part of the... No, you can't. Which is fine, because I think it will be input and output then. Now, when those values come in, we also make sure we're selecting the ISOs, and this is just going to be state code. We won't have an ISO 3 for the states. These are being passed in. I'm okay with these just being set. They're not really, we don't have to influence them in any way. But selected country, we might want to catch both of these. Is selected country the value that we are? Yes. So I think we're just going to let this rip, and if we configure it, we'll see what comes back. Let's grab a couple of values here and make sure we... Albania, Berat County. Need to remember those. So those will be the default value, or the selected values that pass in. Yep. Okay. So now let's go edit this page. Okay, cool. I'll leave all that as is. All right, now let's go back, see what this does. Okay, so if we have a value for country coming in, then we need to automatically call, then we need to automatically get states, right? So then I would say, right after we get countries, if we have a selected country, then we get the states right away. There we go. Yes. Okay. I marked them as required. I'm going to take away one of the values. So if we don't have a selected state, it should be okay. It just won't set it, but it should still load the states. Good. Okay, did that. We can pick that. We're happy. All right, and now let's take away both of them just to make sure that's still working. Okay. Good. So we can't pick a country yet because or pick a state yet because we have to pick a country. And then we're good. All right. Cool. So we have this working. So some things that we might want to do from here, maybe the way they're laid out, because right now they're just top to bottom. So maybe we can make this side by side. Can make a grid or a, make a 1 column or a 2 column layout. Let's do that. Let's add so if we do layout, what do we have to do here? We're gonna make this a grid. We'll make that a grid, and then we look up what a grid does. Gridded. Okay, so then we can wrap the columns. And then it really comes down to, we just need to have some CSS written that's either size 1 of 1 or 1 of 2. So this should give us what we have currently. Okay. So let's make sure this still lays out top and bottom. Yes, it does. All right, so now with layout, we're gonna, let's see, we're gonna call this, let's make a column, getter, it's called column CSS class. I think there's coming in in winter that you can pass a array into class now, and it will format it for you nicely. I think that's coming. We're going to return this. It's just we're going to change one number. I think I want to default that layout. Do we call it layout or just call it columns? Well, we're gonna need to wrap this also because we want to set this. guess we could just call it 1 or 2, right? All right, so we'll do that, and then we'll call this ah. I think that's fair, right? We want to make sure it's actually a number. For now, I'm going to just return this, but I think what we'll do is probably have some nicer values in the pick list that we set up to choose. And that might actually not be a number, right? That's just going to be a value. Yeah, we have to interpret it. Or we could just make it a number, right? I mean, just call it, you know, just say a number of columns. Default to 1. Maybe we'll make that a little nicer. I kind of like the idea of it being I like the idea of it being a drop down, just so it's like makes more sense to the user. Because I think I'd want to do something like this. I don't know if that does that even make sense. Like, is it 2 columns or is it like, well, that's what we're gonna call it. Otherwise, we'll just return the value, or just return 1, right? I mean. So now if we do 2 columns, what do we get? Well, shucks. That didn't work. Let's do a little debugging. Oh, wait, because we're not actually using the value that we... Okay. Now we should get 2 columns. Yay, we do. Probably want a little padding in there. Can we... Let's see, what happens if we do the gutters? Oh wait, that's on the grid, not on the column. Need a little space. Cool. Okay. Great. Now, what else do we want to do? I don't think we need to... From here, any styling, aside from the gutter, maybe we want to make that adjustable, but... and maybe padding or spacing around them or something, but I think from here we don't want to enforce anything else, because now I just want to be able to take this component and put it, I'm going to take this component, put it inside another component, because then the any styling, putting it in a card, wrapping it, putting it in a form, putting it in a flow, we're going to do flow in a little bit, but all of those things would just be set within the implementation of it somewhere else. So this is just the core component, and then I'm going to make a sample. Yeah, just make a sample here. Maybe we wrap this in like a card, just to... Country and state. Let's see, what do we want to set? I think most of this stuff will just default on its own. So I'm just going to go with plain Jane here. I'm going to make this available we'll make it available for the app page too. We'll put it on the app page that we've been working on. So that's interesting because it, oh no, it's one column. By default, it's one column. That's not interesting at all. It's doing exactly what it's supposed to do. Padding's a little off, but that's the responsibility of the card, not our component. Ah, okay, so we have one more condition we haven't, what did I pick? Land Islands? No options here. All right, so that's something we have to account for. Let's go back here and say is it disabled? It is not disabled, so we want to make sure that the state pick list is disabled. Country data is never going to be null, right? I don't think it's ever going to be null. All right, so that should disable it when we pick the Islands. Okay, so instead of, and now we change the label. Okay. Okay. So no states in, fill in the blank. That'll work. And it's disabled. All right, we're good with that. So the requiredness of the state is, we can only make it required insofar as there being states to choose. So that might be a condition we have to think about. We, let's see, where's our disabled or required? We can say it should be required when we configure it. But if a state comes back that, or if a country comes back that doesn't have any states, what do we do? So I think we flop this over to a getter and a setter, because we need to be able to say, yeah, that's great that you want it to be required, but we can't make it required because there's nothing to choose. So happy path, that's what we would pass. or what we would return. So if no matter what, we got to return false. Or we can return what our regularly scheduled programming should be. That should take care of that. Okay, now it's required. And now it's not. Meanwhile, down here, a lot of the countries with the letter A don't have states. Fun fact. Cool. All right, that seems to work. Okay. Sorry, got distracted. Let's see. So we got the components, we can stack them, we can adjust the layout. It's the responsibility of a container component to do whatever it needs to do there. So what else do we need? Maybe it's useful to have a couple of events that we can fire when certain things happen. So when country is selected, and when state, province is selected. Yeah. Does that make sense? So that the controlling component could do stuff, right? So if we have a So we could have a couple of events that a parent could apply a handler to. They just country selected. Oh, well, country selected is a property that we... No, selected country is the value. Country selected is the event. So down here, the detail will make the... Okay, so those will fire now. All right, so, and then we can test this out with our container. We just need to give on those events. We need to have a couple of methods, and let's configure this. That's the right format, right? Yep. I'm going to make these capital because... Okay. Oh. So maybe we have to do... I'm going to... All right, well, we'll be consistent here. Okay. All right, so those are there, and then we need these in the... We'll just write these out for now. All right, so now the container can listen for those changes. And we should see those over here. I select the country. Maybe. I select the state. Cool. So I'll just return the value of the, well, I guess we could return, so now let's think about the, I think this is probably better off as... This always gets messy. There we go. All right, so we want the name to be the selected country. And we still have to populate these. It shouldn't be a big deal. We just have to find them in the... Right, so that's a little more robust of a data structure to send back. And then we'll do the same here. It's just going to be state code. Oops. So that'll be a little bit more robust. And then what we also have to do is what I actually should call is I think I should call this dot on country selected, and then my object I should just pass in an object that is because then that'll simulate firing that event, and then everything will play out from there. Right, it'll fire the it'll fire the selected country, fire the selected state. Because when we select the country, now we want to go in and get the, we want to find the values for ISO 2 and ISO 3. Which I have some code for already over here. So that should return the first value for the ISO 2. And return the first value for the ISO 3. I think we can do the same for the states. Just the state code. Is it code or state code? What do we come back with? I think it's state code. Yep. I'm going to get rid of this. It's exactly the same as ISO 2 and state code are the same, and I think there's cases where the state code is actually not 2 characters. So I don't know if it's going to let me just do that. Might not like that. Nope, totally fine with that. Okay, so we just have to update our component. Did we actually update our state flow yet? I don't remember if we did that. It's been so long, you know, hour and a half. Let's go check that. Yeah, we haven't. So that's kind of important. We need to get the, we're going to just pass a JSON string of the state data, or the state, yeah. Because we, we're just going to have to get that back and then process it ourselves. Yeah, unfortunately the value doesn't just come back squeaky clean. So we're going to do a get here. I totally forgot that we need to do this. want one of these, right? Yep. Doesn't matter. It doesn't need to be sorted. So then we're going to transform. Yes, I know they're invalid. We're going to get rid of them. Don't worry. We really just need to return the list of states as, well, really just not even a list. It's just the string. Yeah, that's all we're returning now. I'm going to make a string. This will be states JSON. And there's only one value. So we don't actually need to transform anymore. Oops. Yeah. No need to transform. Oops. Don't need to get any more. Now the difference here is we're going to get back, so we don't actually need state data as a object, as a Apex defined type anymore. When we call that, this will now be states JSON. Should work. We're going to find out real quick. Definitely going to put a little debugging around this. So let's see. Get states. All right, cool. We have its name and code. So we might just change that to code. Yeah. Okay. So the one change we do have to make here, do we use state code anywhere else? Oops. This would be code, right? Okay, so now let's, we're still debugging that, so let's see, we save that, let's refresh this and we'll check that our event handlers are still getting back what we would expect, because now we have an object that we're passing. Stringify E. Yep, okay, name code. Good. Let's change the country. Good. Has all the values we expect. All right. So we return the ISO values, we return the code, we have event handlers for other components to get the selected values. The next step, I guess, would be to then wire this up for flow, for screen flows, because we want a lot of these things to do the same thing they're doing now. We're going to want to be able to get and send those selected country, ISO 2, ISO 3. We want to selected state code. Selected state can come in, selected code can come in and go out. Selected state code can come in or go out. Or just go out. That's output only. Should be able to set these. Be able to set that. You can set the pick list in hopes that it can be required if we have values we can check. Or we can set pick, sorry. Country value format, we want to set that. Label format, set that. Value, set those. Placeholder. We either are exposing variables for all these things, or we just make a set of labels that you can specify, and then we'll load those labels in. This is just basic layout stuff, so I don't think we're going to make that available. These are way down here, like kind of buried. I'm going to move them up. I'm going to pull these up because they're not in the pattern of... Okay. And now I think we can also get rid of those flows and that external service and a bunch of other stuff, really. Wait, did we not activate this? No. What? All right. I'm pretty sure that was active. That's weird. Huh. Oh, we're not going to get. That's right. We're not going to get rid of the flows. We're just going to get rid of the. We're going to get rid of the external services. Maybe we can delete these old versions too. I'm not exactly sure how that was working. If that wasn't activated, that's kind of weird. Anyway. All right, so get states flow remains, get countries flow. Come on. Oops. I want the versions, not the... Okay. External service, named credential, all that other fun stuff I think we can get rid of. I'm going to leave the external service and named credential, or I'm sorry, the external credential, named credential, because maybe we will do something else in the future, but that external service we're not going to use anymore. Probably could pull everything too, just so we have a update. I feel like pull takes forever. Like it's actually finishing really fast, but then doesn't actually report back. Okay. Yeah, still pulling, I guess. We're just gonna be optimistic and say it did what it needed to do. We really don't need state data anymore. No. So I think I'm gonna delete that. If it'll let me. Oh, hang on. Yeah, we have to do that in the... Hi. Sorry, I got lost in my inbox. Oh. All right. Let's see. We need to get rid of. There's a reference in get states to the state data type. I think we have a variable in here. Yes, this here. Get rid of that. Save that. Save that. Activate that. Go back here. Get rid of the old version. Okay, and then we can delete that. Should be able to delete this class. There we go. All right, keeping it tidy. Do one quick test here, and then I'm just going to take a quick break and grab something to drink. Okay, good. I have no idea why. What's going on here? That's really strange. My screen hasn't been updating. Huh, what? What's going on? How long has that been happening? Wow, that's really weird. Like I literally, all the screens that I'm showing right now are hiding. That's real weird. And I bet that's been going on for a really long time. We're frozen over there. This part of my screen is not refreshing. Very strange. So I'm not really sure what to do. Does this show up? No. All right, turn the screen off. Turn it back on. Nope. I'm trying to think of when what you're looking at is, yeah, old. What's up with that? This is definitely not what you're seeing behind me is not what's up on the screen right now. There's nothing on the screen right now. So for some reason this is having a little coronary. Let's try this. Let's see if I be right back. Does that work? That worked. All right, what if we take that away now? Really weird. Let's try this again. I'm going to try to reset something here. Okay, that's working now. Sorry, we're in like full on debug mode here. This is really strange. All right, so it should be cropping now. Huh. Okay. I think we're back. I think we're back in action. Let's get this. Let's get our windows back up here. Sorry about that. I don't know how long that was going on for. My guess is probably for a little while. I'm telling you all this great stuff I've been working on. Y'all are just like, what? That's not changing, dude. Nothing's changing. Okay, that looks a little better. Let's try this now. All right. Yeah, we have movement. Okay. Whew. That was weird. Anyway, here's the thing. When the last time you saw something was, but yeah, it's working. All right. We've cleaned up. We've got two different layouts. Can put it in a container. Events can be handled when country and events are fired when country and state are selected. We're doing stuff. I'm sure there's going to be some other things that. Oh, we're returning the ISO 2 and ISO 3. I think the last thing to do for now would be to enable it for screen flows, so that you could get all the values back that we're talking about here and still be able to configure it. I'm going to take a quick break and grab some food, grab a quick bite to eat, and let's come back at probably 250. Let's say 250. Sure. Yeah. We will come back. I will turn off my mic so you don't hear me sneezing and whatnot. Back in a few. We're back. I'm a minute late. Sorry. Okie dokie. Screen flow. Screen flow, screen flow, screen flow. Let's screen flowify this thing. We should make a sample. Screen flow, screen flow, screen flow. We're going to make a screen. And we can't put it out here yet because we don't have it enabled. That's a mouthful. All right, that is there, and we'll start doing some stuff with that in a second. So let's find our sources here, our targets. We're going to add flow screen. And then we're going to add honestly, app page is probably not where this is going to get used very often, but let's see. So one thing we can't do, I think we can't do, is have a data source that is drop down, right? I don't think you can do these in flow land. I could try to just move these wholesale, right? The, let's see. We have to add roles here, right? All right, what are input only? These are going to be output, right? Label required. Let's see if we get away with. No, these won't be output only. These will be both. Do I have to say both, or do I? If I say nothing, does it imply both? Let's find out what happens here. I think it's going to yell about the data source ones. Okay, maybe not. Well, then let's go test our. Oh, that's not. It just doesn't work. That's. Let's see. The label. Whoops. What options were those? The formats, right? They don't appear. Yeah, they don't appear at all. So we have to switch those to. I think we just have to take away the. Put them in the description, right? So that's the best we can do. Okay, the state is. Are we missing one? Label format, country label format. Okay. There we go. I'm going to let all the defaults just kind of do their thing here. Do we have layout? Why don't I see layout? Oh, same thing. Probably should put some. I don't think you can do any kind of data source. So that's okay. Let's see how this goes. Actually, we'll do 2 columns. Yeah. All right, 2-column layout. So that's not updating. That works. This should say no states. So let's see if we can find out why. Placeholder. Country's loading, true. I should say select a country, and it does. Okay. Let's see. We got an error here somewhere. Get the country data back, but then something blew up. Have to follow that through. Okay. Make sure it's not trying to jump into get states or something. Okay, so it must be on select. Let's see. On country selected. Okay, so broadcast those, and then it goes into get states. Okay, so far so good. Select a state, can do that. Nothing crazy there. Let's run through this again. So I pick Islands. Okay, AX. That's interesting. All right. Then we get states. Ah, okay. So undefined is what comes back. Okay. Yep, so we have to make sure that this actually has a value. That's fair. That makes sense. Let's do that. I don't think that was exclusive to the, had nothing to do with the flow. That's just the, we just hadn't tested that logic. Go through Afghanistan, should be good. Yep. Good. Now pick Islands. So nothing should happen. No states. All right, cool. Now if we go back, Albania. Good. Good. Okay. So that's working. So now we really just need to send back the, we need to dispatch those, sorry, I'm gonna. Okie dokie. So we just need to send back the, we need to send those change events back to the flow. So we do need to enable these for that. Attribute change event, and then we're going to dispatch a bunch of these back over. Let's see, I think I have some of this. Yeah. We'll dispatch those back over, and then we'll dispatch the country code, or the state code stuff over too. There. So now those values should be going back. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that we need to... Because we could now output the ISO put a display text out here. Should react. Oh, wait, we don't... Let's see. I don't think we have those as output properties. We don't. All right, there's that. So now, if I refresh this, so now we should be able to get those properties out of it. Select the country. I'm just going to output all these, nothing fancy. Afghanistan. Cool. Now, this is something we have to think about, right? These have to be reset when the country changes. We have to wipe out those values. I think I just null these out. There we go. Okay. So no values. That's good. Great. Cool. Okay. I think that's good. So we have, let's see, we have country state pick list component, hopefully the last one you'll ever need. We have custom metadata with all the countries and the states, and a way to update those. Actually, I have a script I think somewhere that I wrote that processes that data. So maybe I could include that as a script in this package. I've got to put this in a repo somewhere. I will actually do that, I promise. Yeah, I think we support, we can put it in, we can use the LWC, we can pass it parameters, we can use it in a screen flow. Those would be the big ones, right? You're either going to put it in a page that you're building or a component that you're building, or you're going to just put it in a flow of your own. So I feel like that's pretty good. I have some other stuff in this instance that I'm not going to include in the. Actually, let's do a poll real quick so we have everything. I have some things that I'm probably won't include in the repo for this, like the junctioner stuff. We didn't get to talk about that today, and we're kind of getting a little short. I'll probably wrap it up a little early here because it's the weekend holiday and stuff. I have no idea if this is working again, but yeah. So we'll include the pick list and the sample. We don't need to worry about named credentials. We'll include the object, the country object, and the metadata. We have 2 classes. I guess I should write a unit test for flow call out. We have a permission set. We actually don't need this anymore either. I don't know if we actually need those. No profiles, no tabs. Well, just our. I don't think I'm going to include the application page. Or maybe I'll just write up in the README like how you would, how you would consume the, or subscribe to the events, or listen for the events on a container controller or component. And the flow, I don't know if we need a sample of that either, but anywho, there you go. Handful of things to make pick lists. Oh, what other features could we have? Maybe there's excluding countries. I guess that could be a thing, right? Don't show us these countries. Don't do states, right? States don't have to be required, so maybe we just disable states completely. I guess you could exclude states, but that gets really kind of nitpicky in the code. But excluded countries seems reasonable. Either as an array or just a comma separated list of strings. I suppose you could pass whatchamacallit, you could pass the ISO, you could pass the or pass the name. So maybe there's some to-dos here. I gotta write these down somewhere. Excluded countries by name. Name or ISO. Exclude states, right? Just deactivate states. So it's countries only. Those are the big ones I could think of offhand. Most other things are configurable. I'm trying to think if we deactivated states. It seems pretty simple. I think it's a kill switch, right? You configure that those states. We would check for that property and not get states. Request them when a country is selected. Obviously, you wouldn't have a value for selected state ever in that case, but that would be fine. Excluded countries, I think, is also not too bad. We would just get the results set. When we get the results back, we'd filter the results down to exclude either, you know, if I think we could take any value and just say, is it check the names, check the 2 states, check the 3 states, or the ISO 2, the ISO 3, and just as we iterate through, don't include them. Keep them out of country data, right? That's what we would want to do here. We start here, and then so what to do? Exclude countries filter, right? And then on get on country selected. Yeah. All right. So there's a couple new features we could add to it. But yeah, I mean, I think this is cool. It's been kind of fun to build. And maybe it's the last time somebody will ever need a country state pick list. I guess I should let the world know that we built some of this. I built some of this and put it out there. Flow callouts in here too. Sort of a side effect. Or free gift. I want to do some more work on that and refine that a little further. I have to make unit tests for these as well. I'm also on the fence about country data. Like it's nice to have an Apex defined type, but it's also like noise, right? This is another component that has to be deployed, and it has to have a unit test and all that fun stuff. So I don't know. We'll see if that's what we want to do. We were just returning it to the nice thing about having the Apex defined type though is it just works really nice with flow call out. We don't really care. And my alternative was going to be, well, I could just return 3. We could still do this. Just return 3 string arrays, collections from the flow, and then they're just indexed all the same, right? That would be an option. Or just return JSON, right? Build JSON in the flow, and then return that. We'll see. I just hate having like a Apex class out here with literally 3 lines. It's just a little noisy, a little, philosophical, I guess. I don't know if I want it laying around. I'd really love just to roll out with flow call out, and that's it. So, anywho, it's not quite 3:30, but it's close enough. So I'm gonna wrap it up here. Thanks for hanging out if you're out there. Thanks for watching the recording if you're watching the recording. And have a great holiday weekend if you're celebrating Labor Day. And we'll be back next week with a special guest. I'll leave it on a cliffhanger. Be joining next Friday. We're gonna play some games. We're gonna play some games with Flow. But we're not gonna build a game with Flow. But we're gonna play games with Flow. Card games with Flow. So stay tuned for that. Anyway, I'm Tom. You can't do that on Salesforce, but actually you can. Have a great holiday.